Hey everyone,
Yay.
welcome, yay, we're started back up again. My apologies for being gone there for a little bit. I actually was out of the country in Morocco. I'm sure I talked about it a million times because I was so excited. Hi Raheem, yay. Hopefully some people will trickle in, but if they don't, we're gonna have this archived. That's why it's recorded right now so that, and we're gonna start following the seeds. So we've
Right.
talked about this a lot, but we haven't, gotten started. Couple things, some of the equipment that you're gonna need and so on. This is just my drinking water. I'll get rid of that. Um, Seed catalogs. If you remember, we had um, gardener, master gardener with us, a biology teacher who runs a farm, and she told us that Harris seeds, that's where she gets her seeds from, and I wanted to try them because they're in New York, Rochester, New York, and I'm in Corning, New York. So I wanted to try a company that was in my area. So I got the free catalogs and got some seeds. But the seeds that I'm trying today are just randoms. We're going to go through these a little bit, plant a few, and then watch their growth and go over some trials and things that we have to consider as it's going. I also bought a journal, and in the journal,
Yay.
yay, I have my first gardening journal. And
Yay.
in the journal, I drew the back of my house where I have
Good.
availability for my product. And I am working on an area, it's like 8 by 10, and it's a east facing slope hill right here. My garage is here, but this space right here is 8 by 10. And I'm gonna do three sisters in it. Problem is, it was a lot more work getting the established plants that were already planted in there. So the root systems are very deep. And without having someone bring a rototiller and rototilling up all of
Yeah.
that, it's probably going to take me till next year to get that ready. But I have several other areas. And during one of our meetings, I took the camera back there. Next week, or maybe the week after, I will take the camera in the back and show you where I have some area to plant. Now I only have 0.25 of an acre. I know some of you don't even have that. Maybe you have a patio, maybe you have a windowsill. So we're going to do all that as well. But I have two existing planter back here, two raised beds, and that's where some of this is going to go in. So your first step is to have something you can take copious notes in when you're just starting out, because we want to follow how everything is doing. And I did a bunch of research. I wrote down everything I want to plant. And then I wrote down, like, here's an example, fruit trees. I want at least 4 fruit trees. I have a very small plot of land. But what I learned very quickly, I just did the research and I learned that fruit trees, couple problems with them. Awful pests like these nasty flies that lay their larvae in the fruit and it renders the fruit inedible. So what do you do as a gardener to combat that? You sometimes have to net the tree. Well, I'm five something and 60 years old, going on 60. How am I going to get a ladder out there and net a tree that's 12 feet tall? So I looked into peaches, a contender peach, and there is one that's a dwarf, and it won't get taller than 5 feet. That I can handle if I needed to
Yeah.
net the tree, right? So you first have to decide what you want to grow, and then you have to find out the conditions in which that item is going to grow. Let's talk a little bit about how you decide what you're going to grow. Well, the whole idea, it might just be for fun, but I figured college students, don't have a ton of money because you guys are buying groceries to do your production, let's use upcycled materials. So very little investment in the way of money. The other thing is, what will I utilize? What do I like for my lifestyle that will save me money? Because one, I love to plant, I love watching things grow. But the other side of that is I want to grow my own food. I want to develop on this little spot of land an edible, landscaping, so that I'm not just growing flowers and stuff. I love flowers, they're beautiful. But one thing I really love is chamomile tea. I drink one every night before I go to bed, and they're pretty. And so that was one way I determined what I wanted to grow. Okay, so that's one thing. I buy a lot of chamomile tea. Why not grow my own and then dry it? I have a dehydrator. Okay, so that was one reason. Peas, I love them, and they're easy to store, and they grow vertical, right? So you don't need a lot of land. That's why I chose peas. We're gonna plant some of the peas today. I mean, sow the seeds, I'm sorry. There's a difference, right? Sunflowers. Every winter I feed birds. It's $25 for a bag of black sunflower seeds. I really like to keep my cardinals coming back. So I thought, yeah, let's put in some sunflower seeds. They're gorgeous. These are the mammoth ones. And I have the perfect spot, which is I have a little patio. I'm up on a hill. So my neighbors, when I'm sitting on my patio, I see their rooftops. So that's going to be the perfect space. And then my hummingbirds and all my birds are around there. I will let them go to seed, and that will be, and I'll just keep planting them out there every year. As the birds eat them, the seeds fall down into the snow, and then in the spring they're going to shoot back up. I hope to have a hill of giant sunflowers. Got to start somewhere, right? So that's the deal with that. Cat grass. I just adopted a cat. He's 18 pounds. And I buy him stuff, like cat grass or catnip and stuff. So I'm going to grow some of that. In fact, this one we're going to plant today. We're going to start the seed today because it germinates in 5 to 15 days. I'm hoping we get a fast something to see next week. Every Monday from now on, I'm going to hold the meeting for an hour just for the growing season, right? Because in the winter months, and I'm in New York, there's not much going on unless you're doing it inside. So I'm going to get to why we're going to start that inside. Lavender, I love lavender. I've already got a bunch out there, but my lavender plants are very woody and they're very old. I don't know how many years lavender plants live. So I want some established plants should I lose those other ones. And then I just got some beans because honestly, the reason I got those is because the seeds are nice and big and you could kind of see what was going on. Okay, so why you choose what you're going to get. I started late. These were only about $2 per container, and we'll see what the yield is, right? Next, we'll talk equipment, okay? And then we'll talk about why we're doing what we're doing. So in the club meetings before, I've already talked about upcycled materials you can use for starting your seeds, okay? These containers from spinach, right? These are called a clamshell. What's so cool about them is I could actually take one of these and I could cut it and I could turn this upside down. And in my windowsill, right, I've got a greenhouse. And when your seeds start to germinate and they get those first leaves, then we need to make sure it's in the sun. And it just depends on the type of seed, how much sun it needs, right? So that's another issue. But these keep the moisture in. Say I take the lid off every couple of days and I give it a spray and I put the lid back on, it's gonna keep humidity in. The moisture's not gonna dry up so quickly, and it's going to reflect the light. So in a window here, you can see I'm opening this window right here. I can put it on the ledge and it can get light. I also have in my window just above the sink, a couple spots where I could put some of these, probably 6 of these up there, right? And at night, I happen to have a light bulb up in there, and it's a grow light. And then I keep my plants in there only during the winter months. And I take everybody outside for the summer months, even though sometimes when you do that, bugs come in on your plants and you don't really want that. And you don't want bugs on your house plants. So sometimes they'll travel inside, but I deal with that. All right. Other things you can use, you can purchase things like this. This is really heavy duty. And what's cool about it is it goes into a tray on my outdoor raised bed. And they're pretty nice. Once you get some roots started and you've got a little plant, you can then, take a knife and go around the outside, pick out the plug, and then plant the plug outside. So we'll get to that. I really love to use egg cartons. And I typically only will buy my eggs in the cardboard, because this cardboard, it already has carbon in it, and it breaks right down into the soil. So when I get a plug going, and a plug is a little plant that has developed some leaves and a root system, then I can cut this, and I've got individual plugs. I just plant them. I don't have to dig the plug out of the container, right? This goes right in the ground. It breaks away. It's like cardboard. And you can also put these right into your composter. So I love these. After you spray them with water a few times, they just disintegrate. So very, very handy and absolutely free, right? If you don't use eggs and you don't purchase eggs, then you can purchase these cells. And the same thing, I would cut these, or when they're wet enough, you can just tear them. And those plugs are going to get planted. But here's the thing. When you're growing something, every plant that we grow, you have to read the directions and find out how far to space the plants if you're putting them out in a garden, right? So I can't we're not going to just put this whole thing in and plant that outside, right? We have to take individual ones and maybe 15 inches apart or a foot apart. It depends on the plant. Okay, so I've got a bunch of these. I've got this one full of a combination of some seed starter. You see those little specks? They're actually ingredient that holds moisture in the soil. If I had straight up topsoil here, it would get so compact as I wet it and it dries, and I wet it and it dries. It's going to keep getting more and more and more compact. That little teeny seed that starts to germinate, it's not going to be able to get through the soil, and it's going to dry out too much, right? I don't want that either. So I have this. I'm going to start it in this. This was $6. This can start a lot of plants. It's organic. And then in addition to this, I added a little bit of our black gold. Our black gold was from our vermiculture. There is an archived video of our worm farm. Worms are doing great. They're kind of lethargic right now. They've done their job. The black gold is gorgeous. They have a little bit of lettuce and some scraps like that in there right now. And then I'm just going to throw the whole thing into my raised bed. And then start again next winter. But this time I will invest the $100 in the Uncle Jim's worm farm, because I found that the migration of the worms was difficult, and I had to take all the worms out to harvest the the black gold or the fertilizer. It's just a speeding up the process of composting, and that's all that is, right? But it's great to start your seeds in, but you don't want to do it in straight up vermiculture harvest. It's too strong. You want to cut it 50-50 with a seed starter, okay? So another piece of equipment, this thing was maybe $4 or $5. I did a little experiment with it. It's got a humidity and a temperature on it. Why am I starting seeds in my house? Because I live in planting zone 6B. I'm in New York State and it gets fairly cold. Into May, we can have 39-degree temperatures at night. So my house is always about 70 degrees, 68 to 70 degrees. Well, the mid-range of germinating a seed, different for every plant, but it ranges from like 60 degrees up to 90 degrees. So 72 is right in the middle. What I plan to do with my seeds until they germinate, meaning until they have leaves and I need to make sure they get sun, I'm going to put them in my gas oven, not turning the oven on, but there is a pilot light in there and it's going to be nice and warm. In fact, today I took a reading. It's 5 degrees warmer in my oven than it is in my house. Okay, and I'll look at it every day because I want to spray them, keep them moist, and we also want it to have high humidity. There's going to be high humidity inside my oven because it's a trapped space, and I've got all these little startings of my plants in there. So there's moisture in the soil. It's trapped into an area, and it's going to increase the humidity more so than just my humidity in my home right now, okay? Which it's been raining a lot, so the humidity is pretty far up there. Let me tell you where we're at. 60-something degrees, 65-degree humidity in my house right now because it's been raining nonstop. So that's cool too. We need to make sure we know what temperature our seeds are at. We need to know what kind of soil we're putting them in. We need them to, they're going to be a very tender little infant, right? We need to make sure that they're able to come up through the soil. All right. Spray bottle. This is just a fine misting spray bottle because if I were to pour water from my watering can, right, for my household plants, then it's going to really drown it. When you have too much water, things actually rot. I don't want to rot the seeds. They're dried, they're in a dry state and they're pretty hard. I want them to be able to germinate in an environment that's favorable for them, right? We need to create that environment. So spray bottle is a must when germinating seeds at first. We've got our soil, we've got our container, and we thought about down the road. We just didn't think about, oh, let's sprout some seeds in here, and then how are we going to get them out and so on. Here's another advantage. When you use something that you can break apart and have one plug being an infant plant with a root system and some leaves, I just lost my train of thought. I can plant them outside sooner than I could these, because with these, you need to get a nice root system going before that plug comes out without you disrupting everything, right? You can't like take a spoon and grab it. The roots are going to be so tender for the first few weeks that will enable me to plant outside much sooner than this thing would. I hope that makes sense. All right, so here's another scenario for having some, starting some plugs. This is cool. Yes, an egg carton, but also you're going to get some light in here, you're gonna get that greenhouse effect. And I can put the lid on and I keep them safe. You know what I mean? There are pests and things that want to eat your baby infant plants, like birds. Some seeds kind of come to the top. Birds will eat those. Corn, bigger seeds that they can see, they'll swoop down and eat those. This way we could keep this out on the porch, keep them warmer, keep them safe from anything until they get big enough that certain animals outside aren't really interested in them, right? Okay, so we talked about everything that we can use to get our seeds started. We talked about temperature, moisture, how we're going to be able to transport them. And we talked about how to plan to determine what you want to grow. Space is a huge issue. Where you're going to plant it has to be corresponding to the amount of light that you need. Let's start with the, I definitely want to do the chamomile. They're so small. It's going to be hard for you to see them, but the catgrass, because it's such a short germination. So let's take a look here. If you've never purchased a seed packet before, this one's non-GMO right up there. You can see the non-GMO symbol. And then on the back, you see the whole United States, and it's color coded for your region, your growing season, right? So I am in New York State, which is right up there in the yellow. So across from that, it's telling me when I can plant them. And that means outside. I'm going to speed up the process by starting them inside. May and June. Perfect, right? We're mid-May, so we're right in the center between May and June, and we're going to get these started inside. Now, and then the other information it's going to give you is the depth they need to be planted. We'll worry about that after we've developed a root system and a taproot. Spacing. This one says broadcast. So what that means is with this, you would throw it onto a larger area, okay? Instead of one seed every so many, inches apart. We don't need to worry about that when we're just doing the plugs inside, right? We're not going to worry about that. The other information it's going to give you is how tall they get. This one is 2 to 3 feet. And it usually tells you what temperature is best for germination and how many days to germination. This says 5 to 15 days. So the quality of the seed, the environment, the favorable environment, that's all going to speed up the germination. And when I mean germination, that's when that seed starts to sprout. When that happens, the seed has to bust through the outer thick skin that surrounds the embryo of the seed. So what we can do is we can soak seeds for 2 days, and that's going to soften that hard exterior. There's many other things you can do. A drop of hydrogen peroxide in water when soaking your seed increases the, softening of the exterior. Now, I don't mind. I don't want to speed these up. There's no reason for that. I'm going to speed it up anyway, because after we germinate the seed, I'm going to put them under some grow lights, and I'm going to keep them inside so they don't have to endure the cold evenings and mornings. And then, in a month, I'm going to plant them and take them outside, and you're going to see the process. Okay. So, we're not going to soak our seeds, but soaking them is just a way to get the seed so that hard outer skin on the seed will allow that embryo to come through so much easier. There are other things you can do. Let's look at the sunflower seeds. I always keep a little ramekin because I like to keep the container sometimes you forget where you planted what. We don't want to do that. And I like to dump them out so that I can then, pick them up. Now, these are pretty big. They're bigger than I thought they were going to be. And I leave that in there. We can't get our seeds mixed up, right? So lots of notes. I have some duct tape. Because we want to make sure we're writing the date. We want to make sure we're writing, what type of seed we have. Really important to take those notes because you will never remember where you put everything. Sunflower seeds. Everyone knows what a sunflower seed looks like, right? You might not know what the rest of those seeds look like, but these are fairly large. And with these, you can take fingernail clippers and you can clip that end and then go ahead and plant them. And that helps that germination. It helps the embryo come through the seed. Kind of cool, right? And they can be soaked also. Susan's doing fine, by the way. She is outside. She's not that happy about it. Susan is our avocado tree, and she's huge. I really have to repot her. So the sunflower seed, with that very tip up there, I would snip that off with anything, and that would help, it doesn't have to soften the exterior, but it would help with the embryo. It just speeds up the process, and it's going to happen naturally anyway. But what do humans like to do? If we're in a short growing season, like we are here all the way north in the United States, then we have to control the environment enough that we are, especially if you're selling vegetables or if you have a CSA, then we have to time all of that so our customers are getting their product. With us, it's a hobby and we're trying to learn from the experimentation. All right, so
I think it's just you and me.
I know, where did they go?
I don't know. Tiara showed up for a second and then she left, and
well,
Rahina left.
It's the last day of tomorrow's the cutoff for all late work, so okay. But that's okay because we have it recorded and that's going to be great, and they're going to see how it started and then they're going to actually see some plants. So this isn't the most
that's good,
right? So let's move this stuff so we're a little organized. And I have 2 of these full already. All I did was take my mix and I took it dry because I didn't want to get like mud everywhere. I am in the kitchen, but I just sanitize everything when I'm done. These are awesome because once I get that dry potting mix in there, I can just kind of shake it to make them even. Just like creating a recipe, right? We don't want to, you can't spend all day. Time is money.
You don't want to press it down too hard either.
Nope. I don't even press it down. I simply spray it. This one is already sprayed a little bit. This one's dry. Spray like 4 trigger pulls per section to get it a little bit wet because it's really dry. And I want that moisture to go through. But again, you don't want mud. And again, because that little seedling is going to be in its infant stages and it's not very strong. Pauline, add whatever. Do you have a thought, comment to add at this stage?
Huh?
Feel free to chime in if you have something pressing.
Well, after you put the seeds in to keep the moisture, usually I put the egg trays. If it's on a cookie tray, put some water down on the bottom of the cookie tray and let those cartons sit.
Yeah, that's a good idea.
A little bit so it absorbs the moisture.
Yep. And when I open the oven, I could pour it in that way. Even with this thing, pour into the tray, but not right in. Yeah.
And let them sit for, half hour or so just to get moisture down at the bottom.
So do you always do 2 seeds as well?
Do I what?
Always put 2 seeds per cell?
Yeah, I do.
I do too. So next we're going to, with something, it could be a pencil, I'm gonna make a hole right there where the seed is gonna go in. And it's pretty moist, so it's allowing me to do that. And I'm gonna put 2 seeds per indentation, and then we're gonna cover it up and we're gonna spray them again. Okay, let's go ahead and do 2 rows because I want a nice amount of these sunflower. Okay, it's starting to stick, so I'm gonna spray it a little bit more.
I took some sunflower seeds out of my bird's food and I'm going to plant them.
I thought about that. In fact, the birds drop them everywhere.
Yeah,
Sometimes,
that's how I got my stand of sunflowers at 1 year. I had heads that were, I don't know, 8 inches across or so, and they were really
nice.
tall. And I had my Oriole birds. They're black and yellow. They go and they fluttered. They're small birds, but they fluttered down, picked the seed out, came up on top of the sunflower head because it was tilted, and used that for their dinner tray.
Oh my goodness.
It was funny.
I
It was
love
fun
to,
watching them.
yeah, that's a lot of fun. And, I find that when you plant flowers and stuff, you get a lot of like exotic looking birds. They're so fun to
If
watch. And
you
then of
want,
course, if you have a cat, the cat loves to watch the birds. And
yep.
I'm putting 2 seeds per cell, and that is because in case one doesn't do anything, you don't always get 100% on each seed. So something to think about. And that little indentation is just going to help it be encased, right? And then I can sprinkle a little bit more on the top. So these are all sunflowers for 2 of the trays. And then we're going to do the grasses, the cat grass. And I'm going to just distribute those, not gonna put the holes.
And my chives came up from last year,
Uh-huh,
and because I just have them in a container in a pot, and I just trimmed them down to ground level after they died off. I just trimmed it off and stuck it outside underneath an overhang, and they popped up a couple months ago, and they're already flowering. My
wow,
chives. I seeded. I grew the chives for the flowers. Not that I was good. I ate some of them already, but the the chives itself. But I grew it mostly for the flowers because it's got a scent and it keeps bugs away. So,
nice. I love them in a salad though too, and garnishing. They're really nice for garnishing as well.
well,
Even the
most of the
flowers,
flowers that I grow, most of the flowers I grow are edible, so they go into salads and stuff like that too. Garnish plates.
nice. Do you have nasturtium?
I haven't grown that in 2 years because it took. I've got the seeds still, so I might just stick a couple down. Uh,
Gotcha.
but I want to along. I have a little fencing in a area which was my birdseed garden, um, and I'm gonna put sunflowers along there so that I can tie them up in case they get kind of wilty. Um, so I'll have it for sunflowers this year.
Nice.
But if you want a nice variety of renewable flowers and plants, get some bird seed and sprinkle it in a little area. You'd be surprised what pops up.
I have a couple spots in the back. I would love to do that because, I just have some unattractive weeds in there.
Yeah, just get some bird seed and sprinkle it in there and cover it up a little, just rake it in a little bit. If the birds come and eat some of it, fine. Whatever's left, it will grow. Believe me.
All right, so
Then you have
now,
fun identifying.
what's that?
So then you have fun identifying the plants.
You don't cheat and use one of the apps on your phone, do you?
Yeah, I do.
Yeah, I love
But
those.
it doesn't always tell you the right ones. So you got to look at the pictures that other people have. So I do my research.
What's today, the 13th?
13th.
All right, so I'm just gonna mark these guys so that I know
You,
who is who.
you gonna put plastic over the top?
I am to keep them
Moisture.
moist. Otherwise they'll dry out so quickly, right?
Right.
And I wanted it on some duct tape because I'm thinking some of that is gonna disintegrate. So I think I told you all that I wintered a bunch of my mom's hanging baskets. They did
Yeah,
amazing. I didn't lose anything. Um,
good.
with fluorescent lighting. And they're just on racks in my cellar, which stays, heated. And I'm
Yeah.
gonna bring them up and replace these and put these under the lights down there.
Yeah, you'd be surprised, you don't have to throw your soil out, in pots. You have plants that have seeds that drop. And
Right,
you don't have to throw your soil out or empty your pot. Just cover it up with a little bit more soil and then store it away somewhere out of the weather. And it doesn't matter if it gets cold or not because seeds need a hardening time in order to germinate when it does get warmer. And you'll have renewable pots and baskets that you don't have to fool with. That's what most of my gardens is um, plants and flowers that seed themselves, and I don't have to mess with it.
right. When you do a raised bed, that's usually how you get them.
Yeah, like along the side of my house, I've got them in. I've got pictures. I've got to post them yet in my file. My lilies are ready to shoot up their flower stalks. I've got evening primrose. I've got different types of mint. Um, along one side, the other side, I've got Easter lilies and wild raspberries. An azalea that's almost done blooming. I mean, everything just happened to bloom at once. So,
Nice.
um, my I planted different types of. I love daisies, so I've got different plants that have daisy like flowers on them. Um,
That's
and
what it looks like. It's real.
feverfew is another good herb to grow. It's got little white daisy like flowers on them.
What's it called?
Feverfew
I thought that's what you said. Okay.
is a medicinal type of plant for infections and headaches and stuff like that.
How do you take it? In a tincture or
You can boil the leaves and let it steep for a little bit, and then use it as a tea, like you would chamomile. You can add chamomile in it.
okay, so I just did a row of beans. And, in all but 4, I put double beans. And 4 of them, I could only put a single bean, so we'll see how that looks different. Sometimes one just chokes the other one out, you know?
Yeah. Sometimes you can even separate them out as you're transplanting them.
Yes. But you usually don't need as many as you start. But I will give these away too, you know, I've got friends that like to grow and so on.
Beans, yeah, beans you can leave if there's 2 together, that's fine. They'll grow together. Sunflowers you can do the same because then they'll support each other. So yeah, it doesn't matter.
Okay, so here we go. Here's our first tray on May 13th. Their progress will be shared with everybody. We'll do some research. We'll find out what pests, what kinds of, you know, what kind of things, you know, pests we have to watch out for, or, you know, how much water they're going to need when they're growing and producing, how much sun they're going to need, where the best case scenario for them is, you know. The beans obviously are going to need a trellis. But the sunflowers obviously will not. That's one tray. See how much
Are those the
time.
giant sunflowers?
What's that?
Are those the giant sunflowers?
Yes, let me show you the mammoth.
Yeah, you're gonna need to stake them up
Yeah.
when they get really, really tall. When they
Yeah.
get their seed heads on it.
Well, the thing is, my patio, and I will show some of that next time I can take my camera out there. The patio is about 6 feet up from where they're going to be planted. So I will have a trellis right there along, you know what I mean? That's going to be easy to do.
Oh, okay.
Yep, because they will get top heavy, won't they?
Yes, they will.
All right, we're gonna go in with the, I'm gonna put these over here. And this one right here, I'm gonna try a little experiment. Or actually, let's try this container. So this was one of those little cherry tomato clamshells, right? And because this cat grass, instead of doing plugs, I'm just going to sprinkle them and cover them. And that way I will have them in this container and they already have a lid to keep them nice and moist. Let's start with the bottom.
I'll be right back, Chef.
Okay. Spraying that stuff because it's like sawdust almost, right? It's so light for those seeds. I really wouldn't have to go more than an inch, inch and a half, just because we're making what you would call a plug. Although this is the cat grass that the cat will actually, you know, eat. All right, and I'll turn it this way so you can kind of see how I'm going to spray, just sprinkle those seeds in. But I want them to be dispersed evenly, right? I don't want them all the same spot competing with each other. I want them to get hydration all over. Don't have to be real careful with it, right? And then, and again, you don't need too much on the top. A quarter of an inch or so is going to be plenty. No animals or squirrels or birds or anything is going to be able to get to these until we've got established little plants with a nice root system. So that's the really good thing about this method and starting them inside. It gives them more of a chance, if you will. And controlling that environment, the hydration and the temperature, right? So it's not going to drop below 68 degrees. All right, I'm going to put that lid on to keep some of that moistness in and put a little label on it so we know what is what. This really is just not that labor intensive for really what you get in the long run, right? All right, and just like when I'm cooking something, I make a mess, I stop, I go back through, I organize so I know what is where.
Yeah, my 8-foot table rolls too. Kind of cool.
What's that?
My big table that I was telling you about, 6-foot table with drop leaves on each side, it rolls too.
Oh, and that's what you start your plants on.
Well, that's what I bake on.
Oh, gotcha, okay.
I want to show you my 2-year-old date palm. I don't know if you can see that.
I want to see.
It's got 3 leaves on it.
I think so. 3 years,
It's 2 years old.
2 years, and you grow that inside, right?
Yeah, I grew it from a seed that I ate the date of. It's an experiment.
Nice.
So, but
What's your name?
so
Don't
it's
tell
getting there. I might see dates sometime in my lifetime.
me. Yay. That's exciting, isn't it?
Yeah, it was just something like you grow your avocado. I can't have avocado in the house because it's poisonous to my bird.
Yeah.
So I grew dates. So we'll see if I
Nice.
could keep the plant alive long enough to, to flower.
So I just adopted a cat and I had to get rid of some plants too because make
Yeah.
sure, yeah. He didn't have a home and I wouldn't have gotten a cat, but he's so big, he can't jump on tables.
Oh,
And
that's good.
so, yeah, I can't deal with a cat on my tables. I'm not that fussy, but I'm very fussy when it comes to that.
Oh,
All right,
yeah.
next.
Me too. Cats do not belong in the kitchen, period.
No. In fact, my dog was just here and she left. Usually I don't let her roam around, but she snuck in here. Okay, I'm going in with peas next. I wanted to show you something on the bean too while we have a recording here. So on the bean, like a kidney bean, you will see that there's a little indentation right there, right? Sometimes they're white. I mean, this is the same color as the whole bean. Like on a kidney bean, you're really going to be able to see that eye, if you will. So on these, if you wanted to get these to sprout sooner, on the opposite side of that egg, that eye, right there with a paring knife, you just make a little notch and then soak it for 2 days and then plant them. And that will yield a much faster sprout. So we're going to try that real quick. We're going to take the rest of our beans and I'm going to plant 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 of them. So I need 10 beans. I'm going to take the other 10 beans. And those we are going to soak them. Now, I didn't talk about this, but water, you don't want to use water from the faucet because sometimes if you're on city water, you don't have like a artisanal well or fresh water like that. Then they're going to, it sometimes has chlorine and stuff in the water that will affect your seeds. So these beans, and I'm going to leave some soil out of one side, those are going to soak for 2 days, and then I'll plant them in the other side.
Oh, excuse me, Chef.
Oh, yeah. I thought that was me. I'm so confused. All right, so experimentation number 3. Beans in one side that have not been soaked, right? Planted on May 13th. So May 15th, we'll plant in the other side beans after they have been soaked for 2 days. And these seeds are big enough that I can push them right down. Like I'll put the bean in. I only want to go down about 1/2 inch.
I'm almost done.
All right, guys. Or Pauline.
Yeah, really. The only one here.
Well, that's what happens when you lose momentum, right? So we'll
Yep.
pick right back up and we'll be styling and profiling with a bunch of herbs and flowers. So guys, that's going to be a wrap for today. Right now, before I do anything else, right after wrapping this up, is I'm going to take my journal and I'm going to write down everything that we just did, the seeds that we just did, the date, I'll keep an eye on temperature. I'll keep an eye on the moisture level. There's not going to be any rhyme or reason to that. I'm just going to make sure they stay moist. Again, I'm putting them in the oven. My oven isn't too hot. It's only a 5-degree increase from the rest of the house at like 75. So that's good. I'm not saying it would be conducive for everyone to put their beans in their oven because older ovens, that pilot light will have your oven, a gas oven, at 100, a little over 100, and not quite 110, but hot enough that it's not going to be favorable for most seeds. The seeds that we planted today, I did a check on those to find the minimum and maximum temperature. And right around 70 was pretty much middle of the road. And they're going to stay consistent at that. But that's something I also want in my notes. What if next year the weather is different? I mean, my heater is off, but I know my house, being here for 3 years, that I know, based on outside temperatures, it's another 25 degrees inside, if that. Now, it's insulated pretty well that if it gets up to 80 degrees outside, it's still not going to affect our beans here. So next week, we're going to meet at Monday again. I'll try to send out some messaging. Same time, every week, on Mondays. I chose that because the pizza club and another club were kind of at that same Tuesday spot. So I kind of wanted to have our own spot until people start to get used to it. So taking copious notes, making sure the environment stays consistent, keeping a read on your humidity. You know, we don't want it super humid, but you know, we don't want it to dry out. Humidity has a lot to do with the moisture in the ambient air. So that's going to be an issue right there. So Pauline, Pauline's been growing for a long time. Most of you that have been involved in the club are going to know that. She puts a lot of her stuff, a lot of nice photos, and answers a lot of the gardening questions on the discussion forum. So Pauline, anything I may have forgotten with regard to the planning phase or, you know, the seed starting? Is there anything else you can think of?
No, you did everything that you're supposed to, and I'm proud of you for doing the journal. That's great.
I'm excited.
Um,
Walmart.
I did post a chart some time ago about seed temperature germination. So if they
Okay.
want to check that out,
Okay.
it's all there. And there's other charts for companion planting, which is very important. Um, some things don't grow together. You know, um, tomatoes and potatoes should not be grown together. Um, um, some plants will, some vegetables, when planted next to each other, complement each other and makes each one stronger and gives better yield. So there is companion planting charting also on there. So, but that's when people are thinking about what to grow where. So
Okay.
have check the companion planting. That's a little hard to say. But that's it. It's getting tis the season to be planting.
Okay, sorry, I had a student calling me. I'll call him right back. So that's a wrap for today. I appreciate Pauline. Thanks for coming. I know I sent an email to you last week. I'll try to do that again. Hopefully we'll just keep building back up to, you know, all of the students that were coming and they were interested in it before. And hopefully we have some sprouts to share next Monday.
Should.
All right.
All right.
Bye.
Bye.
Thank you, Pauline.
My
Bye.
pleasure.